This is Brett Wild, and we are in Pocatello. It's a small airport north of Salt Lake City. I don't know if it's in Idaho or Utah. We'll find out in just a second. No scenery here, no ramps, no anything, but I just wanted to try something unusual. The runway is long enough for us to take off. And we're going to fly the x737 down to Grand Junction in Colorado, west of the Rockies. Alright, here is our route, Pocatello, Idaho, down to Grand Junction in Colorado. This is our sectional or VFR chart. And so I will not be flying just VORs. I would like to find an established jet route. I looked at the World High chart here at SkyVector, and there isn't really anything that takes us directly there in the high altitude chart. So let's take a look at our low altitude chart. And we've got a few waypoints. So if we take off to the northeast, we could come around and pick up Lundy, then Honey, and maybe Grody, MCA. And you can see here that there is, here's our ILS approach, and zoom in a little bit. Loma is our initial approach fix. So it might be convenient to fly down the V391 to max and then on into Grand Junction. So I'm going to go ahead and just create this in SkyVector. So put in Lundy, and we'll add that to our plan. And maybe we'll go over to Gregme. That might be more convenient. Maybe do this VOR, Foxtrot Bravo Romeo. Then we have quite a distance down to MCA, Mike Charlie Alpha VOR. And then finally down V391. And we'll get off here at max. And finally to Loma. So you can see here in the SkyVector flight plan text box our route, and here's that V391. So I'll make a nav log of that, zoom in a little bit, and then let's make a flight plan for that. So I'm going to cut and paste that to my clipboard, then go over to my flight plan converter, and we're going to call this Kilo Papa India Hotel to Kilo what is it, Golf, yeah, sorry, Golf Juliet Tango. And we'll paste in our route, and we'll select SkyVector X-Plane FMS, convert that, and then I'm going to save it down to our X-Plane. Output, FMS plans, So our route is planned. Oops. And we will go ahead now and put that in to the FMS in the airplane in just a second. Alright, in the airplane, just so you know, I'm using a checklist on my second screen. If you're interested in that checklist, let me know. It's been massaged over time. So let's get a little power here. Ground power on. And we can turn on our steady position light. And now we're ready to program our FMC. Over here to our first screen here, and we'll put in our airport of departure. By the way, you can use your keyboard. I don't know why I didn't go to the keyboard version. Over to our route, we're going down to Kilo Golf Juliet Tango. And we'll call this United. Oops, let's clear that. United Airlines 111. And we'll activate that. And now we can pull in our route. So we go to Menu. We go to Nav Data, Load FMS Plan, yes, and we'll go down and find the one that we just offloaded from our flight plan converter, and we'll open that. Takes a second, and I'm always interested how good of a job it does putting everything in there. So let's go over to our legs, and looks like everything is in there. See if it put anything in the route box. So it's just all direct. So that's fine for our purposes. Sorry, switching out my speaker so you could hear what the clicks. How exciting! So let's go ahead and get some fuel going here. Don't want to forget that. And we just need about 6,000 kilograms. And we'll just do a quick refuel. And if we go over to our initial reference here, it's still handling the fuel, so click that. And our reserves will be 10. Cost index will be 80. And our flight level, let's call it, it's a short flight. Let's see if we can get to flight level 320. And then we want to put in our transition of 18,000, which it's not doing. You know, this is something new. I'm not sure why it's not allowing me to put that in there. My friend Steve pointed it out, and I challenged him on it, but I guess he's correct. Alright, I think we're good. The only thing I want to make a note here is our trim. So I'm going to set that for 4.75. And whoops, I just want to check one thing here, and that is that I have altitudes in here, which I do. So I think we are good. So let's go ahead and get things started. Let's get our APU started. So we'll turn on this one fuel switch. It's forward left. We need some fuel for our APU. And then go over here and simply pull it to start, which is a temporary function. And then we'll wait for this to come up. There we go. And go ahead and turn on our bleed. And when this light comes on, you can turn on your generator, and then we can shut off our ground power and continue with our startup. So I will start down this left panel, yaw damper, turn on my other 4 fuel switches, cabin utility, passenger seat, and then down this direction. So no smoking, seat belts, put on our window heat, and I'm going to save our probe heat until we get things started. Electrical for our hydraulic pumps needs to come on. Then down this side we can adjust our temperatures, but recirculating fans to auto, packs to auto, isolation valve to close. These are all in the down position, and we're going to go to 32, flight level 320, that was it. And our landing altitude, that is a good question. I did not check that. We can quick drop down here. And our runway is 4820. There we go. This thing is acting a little squirrely today. That should be fine. Then continue on down. Let's get on our anti-collision lights. And now we're ready to drop down to our glare shield. Flight director on. Armor auto thrust. This is for reference. And we want 20 over our V2. 159. We can arm our LNAV, our altitude. Since there's no SID, I'm just going to go ahead and dial it all the way into 32. And we can turn on our co-pilot's flight director. Then going across this way, you can test your lights. And I'm going to put my engine instruments down on my MFD. and our brakes to RTO, which is rejected takeoff. And let's see, that's it for right now. Our transponder is in standby mode. So let's start things up. Push in, turn to ground. When this gets up in the 20s, we can go ahead and add fuel. When it started, this will flip back to off. And we can go ahead and start the next one. Again, watching our temperature here. There we go. Add fuel. You see this one snap back to the off position. And when that flips to off, everything is stabilized. We can go ahead and turn on our generators, turn off our bleed, isolation valve to auto, and we can shut off our APU. And finally, turn on our probes. These two lights will extinguish once we start rolling. That should come off when we see our, yeah, there we go. And right now we have a range of 40, and our map is, one thing I did not do was step through our flight plan. Might not hurt just to jump through that and make sure there are no surprises. Ah, looks pretty good. Flip that back to map. And we are ready to roll. So before takeoff, we want to turn on our strobes and landing lights. Since we're already at the end of the runway, we don't need taxi or runway turn off. And we can go ahead and flip our transponder over to TARA. And we'll have to adjust this later as we get closer to Grand Junction. Dial in flaps to 5. You can see it here. Release our park brake. And start our timer. And N1 of 40 toga. maintain our airspeed about 159. Do that with the nose, and we can begin to turn towards our route. Go ahead and click VNav, and then our autopilot. Nose comes down to pick up a little speed. One notch of flaps up. And our speed bug is set at 250, so let's see if it stops there. Landing gear to the off position. You can see our route here. Now our speed's slowing down to 250. I don't know why it was why it zoomed up like that. And we're coming up on 10,000 feet. Of course, when you start at 4,000, that comes fast. So we can turn off our landing lights. And we're going to pick up a little speed here so the nose comes down. There's SkyMax 3.2 clouds, and I just saw an announcement for 4.0, and they look really nice. The clouds are going to be great. We don't need to see all those airports. So I'll get back to you in a minute. Okay, we're coming up on our first waypoint. Lundy. You can see our top of climb over here. Take a look out the window. And I've got X airports pulled up here. And I'm using the relief map from Google. So we took off here, Monticello, and quite mountainous. And we'll be east of Salt Lake City, which is over here somewhere. Yeah. So that's where we're headed. There we go. And we're coming up on our top of descent. Look out over the nose. Take a look out the window. And as we get to our top climb, we're going to see the throttles come back, and we can go ahead and let people walk around. Somebody called. But you'll see that there are these two lights that were on here turned off after we took off. I've never noticed when they actually turn off. Maybe it's just under full power. Not real sure. But everything looks copacetic in the overhead. So that's it for right now. Okay, coming up on top of climb, and you can see our throttle's already coming back here. And our navigational display is now showing GigMe. You can see our rate of climb slowly coming down. And our final speed will be a result of what we set for our cost index. Now, I don't know what that is. That is strange. I wonder if this is some sort of Easter egg that's in the software. If anybody could tell me why that's there. I mean, we're going to get really close to it, so we'll get a better look. Yeah, that is bizarre. Wow, it's in all the views. Maybe it's some sort of alien structure, because it's definitely out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it's right around in here. But folks, there ain't nothing in the US that's at 32,000 feet. So that's what we call in software as an anomaly. Not sure what that is. Yeah, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? And it looks like a pretty natural structure. Now, I hope that's not a runway up there. If it is, that's a challenge. I'm sure the passengers would be wondering what that is. I think that is a runway. Alright, that's pretty funny. The only problem is, the only aircraft that could land on it would be a small aircraft, but you'd never get it to flight level 320. So that's what our passengers are seeing. They have to be a little freaked out by that. Alright, well, that's enough excitement for the day. I'll return shortly. So a little progress report. We're coming up on Foxtrot Bravo Romeo. So if we go and look at our map, we're right at about here. So Salt Lake City's over here. And One thing I'm curious about, do we still have our obelisk there? Well, it just disappeared, but that is still unusual. I wonder if they put that in there as a joke. And one last map to look at. This is X airports. Not a lot to look at. Looking out over the nose, side windows. Whoops, they put the shade down. All right, I understand. All right, back with you shortly. So we're coming up on our VOR here, and our top of descent is just before that. And if we look at our map, we're right here. I think it was calling it MCA. Really, it's a VOR, Victor Echo Lima. So, one thing we want to do then is set our altitude so that our descent is targeted. At least it has somewhere to go. So pull up a map of our approach plate, and that would be ILS runway 11. So Loma is here. Max is going to be our initial approach fix. Notice it goes all the way back here, but I don't see that on our profile here. Anyway, Loma, we want to be at 8,200. Max would be about the same. So let's see what is on our FMC. Max is 10,000. Loma is correct. And since it's a pretty straight on approach, we shouldn't have a problem getting the guide slope. As you know, in this airplane, if you're above the guide slope, you're in trouble. You want to make sure you're below the guide slope and fly into it, which is pretty normal anyway. And so I just click that, and I'm just going to go ahead and type in the 82. Whoops, what did I say it was? Yeah, 82 for Loma. Used the wrong number pad. Maybe it's 08200. There we go. Still getting the hang of clicking on that and then using the keyboard. So just 4 miles before our top of descent. So we have about 80 miles to max. All right, our throttles have come back, and we begin our descent. And we should probably get everybody back in their seat. I'm ignoring that call. And here we are looking at X airports. Still have a ways to go. Not much out here, not even a major interstate. I think that 15 goes through, or 90 or 80. One of the interstates goes through Grand Junction. I've actually driven through it myself. So we'll just monitor our descent. And join me again as we get closer. Alright, as we come up on max and turn final, let's take a look at our map again. I want to check my frequencies, 110.3, and get that dialed in. And I want to put it on both radios here. I can't believe I forgot it. 110.3. All right, 110.300. 110.300. There we go. Again, I'm still getting the hang of that. 110.300. And you want that frequency in both nav radios, because that way you can double up on your autopilot. And you can check nav status over here, and you can see that it is dialed in correctly. So coming up on max, just about 15 miles out, and we can go with our standard baro right now. I have not figured out how to actually adjust it. I know it does it here, but it needs to get placed here, and if you click that, it just goes to standard. Somebody help me figure that out. Coming in over the mountains, and you can see our route here. So we'll turn final. Notice how they've placed the runway in a direction that kind of goes between these two sets of mountains. Oh, here's 70. I said 80 and 90. No, it's 70. And this goes all the way into Denver. Wonder if we've got the shades up. Oh, there we go. Nice view for our passengers. Whoops. Okay, put down your sunscreen. That's okay. So coming up on max. And now that our frequency is dialed in, I'm hoping that we see our localizer and guide slope bugs soon. Still have a ways to go. And we're coming up on 11,000. Remember, our runways are, I'm not sure why we are climbing. Air conditioning. I don't know how to fix that either. It'll keep coming on, and now you can see we're descending rather rapidly, and I did nothing. Very erratic behavior, but we are turning towards final. And let's turn on our landing lights. So now I'm hoping to see our localizer and guide slope soon. So we need to be at 7,000. And still slowing down. Go with a little speed brake here. And we'll dial in our own approach speed. Now I've got my localizer here. And here comes my guide slope. And we are definitely below it. So we'll slow down our descent. Now this has gone back to 250. Now our localizer has been captured. Now we're just looking for our guide slope. So we're about 12 miles out. And still waiting for our guide slope to drop. So right now we're level. Here's our airport. Sorry if I'm making you sick by zooming in and out, but I'm curious when this diamond is going to drop. Ah, here we go. And it's turned magenta. So I'm waiting to see this turn green. This will go to green and we should see power come back. Just dial this down to 140 and we could drop some flaps. And I've got this single CH, so I'm going to go ahead and engage both of those APs. You have to have this co-pilot flight director on. So 2 APs on. I've got my speed dialed down, and we can put our gear down. And set our auto brake. Speed brake is armed.
1,000.
So we've got 2 white, 2 red. I always like looking out the window on final approach myself as a passenger. The Rockies off to the east. Last notch of flaps. Auto land on. Flare. This thing really hits hard. And reverse.
It's going to take the captain just a few moments to taxi to the gate, so we ask that you remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened until the seatbelt sign has been turned off.
I have no scenery for this.
That will be your only indication that it's safe to get up and move about the cabin. We also ask that you keep the outside.
So I'll just pull off the runway here.
Extra care should be taken when opening the overhead bins, and the articles may have shifted during our flight. On behalf of your entire flight crew, it's been our pleasure.
So it was a little sloppy there on the approach in terms of trying to get to the right altitude. I probably should have just left it alone. I think the airplane was doing just fine, but I started messing around with the vertical speed and so on, the speed itself, and it probably was not necessary. So definitely everything hanging out here. I want to clean up that airplane and make sure our landing lights are off before we taxi to the gate, if there were a gate. So thanks for joining me. If you've got any comments, if you can explain that strange formation in the middle of our flight, that would be great to know. So thanks for joining me, and until next time.